Well, folks, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. And I got to thank Peter Trulin for putting that awesome tune together because as soon as it starts playing, you see people's heads start bobbing here in the chat. It's a catchy tune, and it means you are in for another week of trouble here with the Wrecking Crew on the Rec Poker Podcast. So thanks for joining us, everyone. I want to say, first of all, thank our sponsors, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, Casino, and Hotel. Everything we do here at Rec Poker, well, not everything, most of what we do here at Rec Poker is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, and so their support means a lot. And the premium members that unlock all the amazing premium features of our premium membership here at Rec Poker, they deserve the real thanks. We've got a couple new premium members since we last spoke, so I want to thank Timothy Fletcher and Darius Kriegel for their support and their help keeping the lights on around here. Their $15 a month really shows us that you enjoy what we're doing. It helps us keep defray our operational costs, and it's just a great way to support the show and everything else that we do here at Rec Poker. It's a largely free community. We have a ton of amazing premium options. The folks that make those premium options happen are the Wrecking Crew. You get used to hearing my voice on Mondays, but that's just because they let me host the podcast. It takes a whole crew of people to make the magic happen over here. My name's Jim Reid. I'm Bluffsterini in the home game and at Rec Poker Jim on Twitter. But if you want to find out more about me or the rest of the Wrecking Crew, all you have to do is head on over to rec.poker/crew. But you can also just listen up because you're going to meet a few of them here on the air tonight.
My name is Eric Jin. I post as Binkley on the forums. You can find me on Twitter as RecBinkley, or if you're playing the home games, you might see me as COM Binkley.
My name is Joe Coolis. You can find me at Twitter at JoeCoolPhD, cool with a K. And you can see me on the Rec Poker site as Elvita11.
And I am John Somsky. I'm known as Poker Geek MN everywhere.
And we are excited to be joined by the one and only Merv Harvey tonight. We're going to be starting the interview with Merv in just a minute. I also want to mention we're still doing our Tuesday night home game special with 100K Studios. Every Tuesday night, you get a chance to win a prize. We'll go into some details about that later. And I also want to flag, if you're those kind of people that don't listen to the full podcast, we're going to talk more about this at the end. But at the very beginning, I just have to flag, we are having our very first official Las Vegas Rec Poker meetup game. It's going to be in the last week of June. If anyone's in Las Vegas for the last week of June, you'll see some more details coming soon. But we're going to be getting together at one of the casinos on the Strip and having our very own Rec Poker meetup game. So I hope folks can join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun, like our own Merv Harvey. So Merv, it's so great to be talking to you today. You've been on the show before. Back in the day, you had our own Steve Fredland on your show, which was the Postflop Poker Podcast. If people don't know who Merv Harvey is, I don't know what rock you've been living under for the last little while. But the Postflop Poker Podcast was a fantastic podcast that was sort of aimed at, like ours is, kind of serious recreational players looking to make the next step. And Merv, I just really enjoyed that show a lot. I know you've come a long way since then, but let's just start by me saying, it's great to be chatting with you again, friend. Thanks for coming back on the Rec Poker Podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. It's always a pleasure seeing you guys. And yeah, really appreciate I'm glad you enjoyed the show. And yeah, we could sort of touch base from there and still be in contact now. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things I love about the poker world is that you find these people that you just want to stay in touch with. You know, you're one of those just fun, positive people that are shining your light in the poker world. So if our fans and our audience don't know about you, you were the co-host of the Postflop Poker Podcast. You've also been an avid player for a long time. I always start our interviews with this, but if someone just asked you sort of what's your role in the poker world today, how would you summarize that for them?
Today, literally, as I'd be a content, perusing the content as much as I can. I just never get enough chance to listen to as many podcasts as I can listen to. There's not enough hours in the day. I try and get out and play as many live tournaments as I can, local ones around here, depending on where I'm staying at the time. Yeah, that's probably my main sort of basis, and just sort of following the poker Twitter world and seeing what all these great people that I've met, what they're up to. And for example, I saw Kev Math made a bit of a run yesterday. I got to follow that in his timeline. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
So let me start with that then. So the Postflop Poker Podcast was on the air for quite a while. You guys did, I think, over 100 episodes. What was that like for you participating with it over that long stretch of time? How did that kind of change how you thought about the game of poker, but also how you thought about the poker industry and the people in it?
Yeah, I guess that we went for a few years. I ended up doing nearly 100 episodes. I took over from the previous co-host, and we were able to get on some great guests and just get so many different points of view, tips, strategies. I was sort of waiting for the big key to unlock this something in my brain that was then going to lead me into these 5-figure scores and 6-figure scores. For some reason it didn't quite happen, but I think probably the clue was that I wasn't able to put enough time into the studying side. And I think that's, if I had my chance to go back again, I'd really try and jam in some more studying hours while I was hosting that show. But it was a lot of fun, and every 2 weeks coming up with a new guest was always a bit of a challenge. Trying to get poker players onto a podcast, with one of us in Australia, one in Thailand. We had Mike was in Europe, Amsterdam, Holland, and and poker players, they're playing tournaments all the time, and we don't know when they're going to finish their day, or they've had a long cash session. It was going good. It was always a tough ask to get a guest on, but I'm pretty proud of the list that we ended up getting. Yeah,
definitely. Eric, you had something?
Oh yeah, so I remember I'm a big fan of the poker Postflop Poker Podcast. It was like one of the early poker podcasts that I listened to regularly, so I learned a lot from that. And I remember that you would mention like, oh, I'm now in this part of the country and now this part of Australia. My impression is you moved around because you were you did like house sitting or pet sitting. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, Eric. Yeah, we do. My wife and I, partner, we do house sitting. So we're constantly on the move from one pet sit to the next, to the next, to the next. I think last year we clocked up about 40 different moves. This year we're on track for about 30. It's nice. The longer sits are better because you get to stay in the same place for a while, and I get to get a little bit more used to the local card room. And so, yeah, depending on where we are, I can go and play. There's heaps of different poker leagues on in Sydney. There's probably I don't know about hundreds of games, but it is probably getting close to about 50, 100 games a night on anywhere in Sydney. So I'd just try and look for the value, see what suited my bankroll, see what suited my style of play. Sometimes I like to play with the regulars that I'll know from the same place over and over, because you kind of know how they play, so you've got a bit of an advantage there. And other times it's really great just going to some place you've never been before, totally unknown players. They don't know you, you don't know them, and that's another challenge altogether. Yeah.
Do you ever notice like a regional difference in terms of style of play? Like, oh, this region is they're all tight and nitty and limping, or this other region, they like to battle and 3-bet, 4-bet. Did you ever notice that?
Good question. I'd probably say the most noticeable difference would be in the leagues. The differences between the leagues. There's some that are way more recreational, and others that probably have a little bit more of a structure towards some of their bigger games. So the players that tend to play there will be a lot more studied. And tend to be a bit more difficult to play against. There's some of the ones I really enjoy. So probably, and regional wise, I think poker's so varied that you're always going to get the range of players from your totally recreational, young guy that's just there to have some drinks with mates and he's only played a couple of games, to the semi-pro with their backpack, and if they bust out here, they're going to be going straight to the next game that they can. So yeah, probably more the difference between the leagues rather than the regions, I guess. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anything else there, Eric?
No.
All right, Joe, you had something, I think.
Well, I have plenty as always, but I'll try to keep it brief. But
Bring it on, baby. No, don't keep it. If you keep it brief, I'm gonna have to talk more. No, get in there.
Oh no, we don't. Nobody wants that.
We don't want
Nobody
that.
wants
Oh God, no. Yeah.
So I was actually very excited to I wanted to talk to Merv Harvey, but apparently he didn't show up. So I have to come up with new questions for Merv Harvey. No, Postflop Poker Podcast is actually the only other podcast I've ever listened to from beginning to end. I can't even really say that about the RecPoker Podcast. And
So there's a lot. This is like 486 or something. So yeah.
But it was actually when I started playing and I needed something to try to learn, and so many other, to be honest, even RecPoker didn't really have strategy segments, and so it was less interesting to me. Whereas you guys always and you very systematically took it forward. So I can say I've listened from beginning to end, and I really want to give you credit, because I think that if anybody hasn't listened to the Postflop Poker Podcast, it's still a great podcast to listen to, just to talk about strategy, just to break it down. But in particular, the manner in which you and Ben and Mike, for the period that he was on, really I was always amazed that the three of you had such a good rapport, given that you were in so many different places and seemed to just have an easy way of going things and talking about things. And I do want to, before I get to my question, I do want to say that the segment on your dad was one of the most touching things I've heard in a podcast really throughout the whole time. I thought that was really fantastic. And I'm not going to ask you to talk about it, because I'm sure it was deeply personal at the time, but I just wanted to say that that's difficult, to do.
Yeah.
So how do you come in from a point of being a non-poker player into somebody who plays poker grinding every day, right? Because you were playing a lot of pub games, if I remember, and essentially fit in and mesh into that sort of environment so seamlessly. It was quite impressive.
Yeah, it's interesting. I usually consider myself a pretty shy person. I don't usually like putting myself out there for things. I think it was probably my enthusiasm for poker that kind of got me over the line there to even just to get a gig at Postflop. Ben casually mentioned at the end of the show, "Oh, we're looking for a new co-host," and I thought, oh, I might try that. And I sent him a message saying that I happened to have captained the 13Es cricket side when I was at high school, so I could make a good captain. And he believed me. And I was as shocked as anyone when he wrote back saying, "Yeah, okay, well, come on, let's give it a go." And from there, I guess I just started off with. As far as trying to get guests on with a few people that I knew and wanted, and people that I wanted to meet and hear more of, and also want to let the poker world hear more of. And yeah, I think that was, I sent Ben my wish list of who I wanted to get on the podcast, and we systematically worked our way through them. And I think it's basically just having a non-stop enthusiasm for talking poker that just allowed me to get on and talk, which, I'm not always the best at, but yeah. And thanks for what you said about
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say thanks for what you said about Dad's segment. Yeah, I was sort of tossing up, how much do I bring a subject like a father passing away to a poker podcast? It's supposed to be happy and cheery, but Ben was on board, and I just thought it was important to kind of talk about that as being, that's part of real life that comes along, and
I think that's a great point, because I think that oftentimes people, when they try to construct something, particularly about poker, it's like they remove the humanity from all of it. Even poker players themselves. And you can ask these guys. I regularly rail against emotion being completely devoid in poker, because we're not sociopaths, right? Everybody at the table is a human being, and I do think that that Postflop did do a good job of kind of relaying that Mike's going on the game shows and then having all of the what was it, the Tinder dates in his basement that he was locking up, which I think Jim probably has too, as well, as knowing what I know about Jim's basement. But and just moments like that, which I think make something relatable to the kind of people in our audience who aren't going to be grinding, sit and goes 14 hours a day. They're going in to ostensibly to meet people and to be involved in that. So
yeah, and that's to me, that's a great thing about live poker, especially. That's why I just love it so much more than online. Online, I'd love to be able to play in Australia. Here we can't really play now, and I was able to dabble a little bit before they totally banned it here. I would have loved to have been able to connect with the HUDs. That would have been my connection to replace the human connection, but to play live and just go and sit on the table and just, what's this guy talking about? And you hear the little side comments like, I would have had this, I would have had it. And you think, okay, well, you're just getting tells all over the place, and the social part of it as well is just awesome. It's probably one of my favorite things, that all humans are completely and 100% unique. No two are the same. And it just never ceases to amaze me that the human range, and in poker, we get to see it right there in front of us, and play a game with them.
Yeah. Where did you develop your sense of comedic timing? I thought it was fabulous. Of comedic timing, it's like your ability to respond to Ben at the time when he would press you on something was really well played. I think it was one of the things that made the podcast quite listenable.
Oh, thanks. So definitely no comedic training. In fact, most of it's probably a nervous reaction half the time when I hear some of the stuff that they came up with between him and Mike. I'd cringe and either have to kind of just be careful what I said in response. And sometimes I'd need to kind of steer the ship back to some sort of normality, or like, there's only so long that you can talk about Tinder dates.
Just the other day, I saw somebody on a mobility scooter, and I couldn't help but think about Mike. That was classic.
Yeah. But wait a minute here. I'm going to push back at you being, only being unable to be to push comedy, because you were the one that came up with the bingo mindset training, which I've actually wanted to sign up for. And so, how is that going? How is the bingo mindset?
Oh, look, it's going perfect. I haven't had many clients, but that's okay. You're welcome to jump on board as the first. I'll give you a special offer. Bingo mindset. I guess I'm kind of, my wife. I grind the poker, and she's pretty good at grinding the bingo. And if I told you what her ROI for bingo is, you would not believe me, given that it's meant to be a random game. So I like to, she considers me her bingo coach, and I take a lot of the poker mindset things like table selection. You don't want to be sitting on a table of grumpy bingo players that are whinging about how much they've lost over the last 6 months and how they've never won. And you want to be sitting on a nice, positive, supportive group. And when one wins, you all feel like you've had a win. What else have you got? You've got obviously focus. You've just got to focus and make sure that you're there. There's a bit of a willpower sort of thing, believing that right number can come out when you need a 68 to come out as the last number. You really have to set that mindset to 68 will come out, 68 will come out, will come out. It doesn't always come out. It never always comes out. It's like poker. So the more that you have that will, you know that it's not going to happen all the time. But when it does happen, you were there for it, and you kind of willed it towards you. You drew it in towards you. I'm a big believer in picking up energies of kinds, the energies that we can't really measure. So that the bingo mindset's a big part of my play, and I apply it to life as well. You know, when you're going somewhere at full, you know the car park's going to be full, and you think, I've got to get in and get out. How am I going to get a car park here? It's just, you just set the intention way before you go, and just know, okay, there's going to be the right car park there. And for myself, maybe because I'm engrossed in this bingo mindset, more often than not, I actually get one. I like to call it my white magic.
Is there something, is it a little different though? I mean, because bingo obviously is a much more physical game than poker. You do have to worry about having the arthritis, or, if you get cramps doing the dauber. Is there anything different that you coach there between bingo and poker?
Yeah, look, the exercise regime for poker is a bit different to bingo. You've got to make sure you go in there with your dobbing hands. Although nowadays it's a lot more electronic. So at least here in Australia, anyway, we have electronic machines for bingo, so you don't get as many of the arthritis complaints that you used to hear about. Not so much. So
Merv, are there different, is it like poker where there's different strategies for live versus online? Because I know the game can be played very differently once you take it online. At least with poker, it's a completely different strategy.
Look, on online bingo, it's not something I've been able to get into too much, because again, it's outlawed here in Australia. They just won't have that sort of illegal kind of stuff over here. It's definitely different. You really want to be in with the live crowd when you're playing bingo. You've got to be a part of it. I mean, people, talking about this in a laughing way, but down in Melbourne, for example, there's games there where there's $10,000 bingo games every week, and sometimes some nights there's 3 $10,000 games on, a couple of 2,000s, and the rest might be 500. So that could be for a buy-in of say $70, $100, max out at 150, and you're in the shop for a 10,000 prize. And I can just say.
And this is the same region of the world where they have problems with gambling with poker, but they feel like bingo is a skill game, so it's not quite the same concerns that you have with these degenerates playing poker.
I don't know how they do it. There's some legal loophole that lets them give away tons of dollars. I mean, that $10,000, they also have $100,000 games as well. So, and I've seen them. They have them in America too. So it wasn't sort of. I was like, wow, $100,000 bingo game. This is crazy. It's
pretty. So has the bingo, how is live bingo in Australia dealt with real-time assistant issues? I mean, I just can't imagine solvers for bingo have been just rampant. So
look, I'm currently working on one at the moment. I'm going to keep it pretty quiet because I don't think it's going to go over too well with the old crowd that usually go. Just a little thing like, every 5 numbers you want to be hitting 2 or 3, and every 10 numbers you want to be hitting 4 or 5. And if you're not up to that yet, you've got to increase that mental power to kind of bring those extra numbers in before you start getting close to call.
Well, I'm so glad that we were able to have you here on the Rec Bingo podcast. John Somsky puts into the chat. Let's pull up a little here, gang, so that our few remaining listeners can soak up some of this knowledge. So Merv, I want to talk a little bit about sort of what happened with Postflop. I mean, I know what it's like being in this great position of being able to host a podcast and just, being able to ring up all these fantastic poker people and just invite them to come on the show and talk to them and kind of enter that poker world. Who were some of the people that really surprised you with either how, intelligent they were, or how generous they were, or just how kind they were, from the poker world that you got to then engage with and become friends with, or have in your file of facts or your Rolodex for the next time you were in Las Vegas?
Yeah, look, I don't know if I can say that anyone surprised me with their generosity or their willingness to come on the show. I was just really grateful, I guess is a good word for it, that these people that I've kind of looked up to and really enjoyed their content or their place in the poker world, just how willing they were to come on and jump on and talk strategy and listen to some of the banter that Mike and Ben were able to come up with. It was just so many people that I'm amazed they said yes, put it that way.
And so now you're in this next chapter. I'm sure a lot of those people are still friendly with you and that sort of thing. I want to talk to you a little bit about being connected to the poker world. So you've been getting more involved with like Twitter Spaces and that kind of thing, and being a part of the poker world, but not as centrally located within it as you used to be. I've also, like, I'm sure a lot of the panel here and our listeners have also seen Spaces kind of taking off. Talk a little bit about that medium and what you like about it and why you've been enjoying that so much.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the Spaces, Twitter Spaces really taken off. And when I say really taken off, you can say like 400 or 500 people at a time. Doesn't sound like anything like thousands of YouTube views, but the real value in it is I'm going to say the quality of the people that have been coming along, and the level of how I guess kind of high up in the poker world are, and they come in, and in the main, anyone can jump on and ask them a question in theory, as long as the host allows them to jump on. So, I mean, I could start running through names, but I'm going to forget them, and some won't sound so good. But just from Daniel Negreanu down, let's just put it that way, that these people have been coming on and just giving their time to everyday folk that jumped on listening, that may have 5 followers on Twitter, but they're able to jump on and ask them a question about, hey, what sort of game do you think I should be playing? Or what do you think about this particular move? So it's got that sort of fan base kind of a feel to it. It's also got there's been a lot of poker beefs that have been squashed, and for me that's been really interesting to see. It's when you get 2 people that might have started a tweet war at each other, they're bashing heads tweet by tweet by tweet. They come onto the Twitter Spaces and they're actually talking to each other, and they're starting to spill out some of their background, some of their life's history, and some of the reasons why they do the things they do. And to me, that's probably been some of the real jewels in that, I guess, because seeing how people are able to resolve their differences in such a way that, and such a public way as well, that other people were able to actually see, people changing their views. And it's poker can be pretty polarizing at times. There's polarizing types of people playing. So that's what you get to indulge in these poker spaces. And I'm a pretty patient person, so I can sit through a lot of stuff that doesn't mean anything at all, but that there's going to be some really good stuff coming up. And that probably describes Twitter Spaces. These spaces, some of them have just been marathon sessions, like 12 hours, 18 hours, non-stop. But the people that pop in, Matt Savage, to talk about the blind structure of a particular event, or big blind antes, or just all these different things. Since it's topical, the HCL $1 million game that's been on, Nick Vitucci's been coming in and just kind of giving us updates on how it's been running, and who's running hot and who's not. And I'm really looking forward to the WSOP being able, for me, to be able to experience it from the other side of the world, from the Twitter Spaces point of view. I can watch certain things on PokerGo. There'll be, you know, a few YouTube final tables and things. But to actually be able to converse with people that are there on the spot, that's the real difference. You've got, you know, people reporting live from, you know, and here's a bracelet winner. You know, they had the Jeremy, the guy that won all those win tournaments in a row. He came on and explained stuff, how to talk. Yeah, just magic. Yeah.
Yeah, he could do a talk on variance. I imagine the positive effects of variance might be an interesting conversation. I know exactly who you're talking about. On the other end of the spectrum, because I think people think about these Twitter Spaces as sort of like crowdsourced, you know, large grassroots communication and reporting structures. You were also a reporter for Poker News at one point back in the day. How have you seen that aspect of the industry change over the years? And can you speak to a little bit of sort of like the challenges of being a reporter in that specific position?
Yeah, I can say it was a fleeting experience. It was 7 or 9 days, I think, totally immersed in a series at the Poker Palace, which was the first time I'd ever been there. It happened, popped up, the opportunity just popped up because their usual Poker News usual reporter in Australia wasn't available, and because I happened to meet a couple of the Poker News guys at Aussie Millions, they just said, "Hey, do you want to do some reporting?" And I went, "Same thing as Postlop." I went, "Yeah, why not?" How hard can it be? It can be very hard. It's quite a thing. I mean, you've got you one thing you want to know the players that you're reporting on. There's no point sort of giving a hand history between this guy that I don't know the name of and this guy I don't know the name of. You've got to find the names of the people. So I was on the back foot from there. You've also got to, there's no chip counts anywhere, so you've got to actually count the chips in their stacks. Poker players don't always have the perfect stack of 20, as is a pretty popular topic. Often dirty stacks and everything. Trying to get an exact count of that, and sometimes there'd be, you know, a 25k chip that was actually tucked in the back, or so that was difficult. You've got all these tables playing around you. You're looking at a hand, and you might be writing down the history and thinking, yeah, this will make for a good hand. And then a noise comes from 6 tables over, and you think, oh, what's happened? What's happened? You've got to run over there, try and get the story from someone, and then something else is happening over here, another table, you know. And while you're typing all that up, something else is happening. You're missing out on so much stuff. So it was a challenge to be able to put in, you know, at least half a dozen sort of hands you'd want to be putting in every hour or so, and it was long hours. It was, you know, you were there all the time. It's not like you can just take a half-hour break or an hour break, and you know you miss key parts of the tournament. So yeah, that was quite difficult. I'll say again I've said it a few times to people, but please, if you've ever been reported on by a Poker News reporter and they get something wrong, don't go and start a Twitter war with them. just let them know. They'll do their best to correct it. And go easy on them. It's not an easy job standing behind a table of players that are all looking at you going, "What are you doing standing there?" I'm reporting. And
I was going to say, luckily, poker players are famously very easygoing about mistakes in the reporting on their stacks or that kind of thing. So,
yes, I copped a little bit from that, but mostly in the main, that it was great. They were most of them were really good. The organisers, a shout out to Will, the TD there. You know, he just helped me along so much, and I really appreciate everything he was doing to help us get the right story and the right names and the right chip counts. And I probably just how that little period ended was the main event, final table, got heads up. What I actually knew one of the guys that was in it, so that helped. And it went for about 4 hours, heads up. There was a lot of folding. pre-flop going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd start to write down a hand. No, scratch that. That's not happening. Start to write down,
Right.
scratch that. No. Oh, there's a 3-bet. Oh, fold. Okay, scratch that. Not happening for about 4 hours. So I think I really sort of found my flow. About an hour or two before the end of the main event there. But,
Yeah, just to get yourself in lockstep just in time, right?
Yeah.
But I want to remind our listeners, like, these poker news reporters, it is a tough job and it can be pretty thankless sometimes. And it is difficult to be precise about this for all the reasons that Merv's talking about here. So I'm glad to give them a shout out and for people to kind of appreciate how difficult that job is. So you've been a reporter, you've been a player for a long time, you hosted the podcast. Now that you're playing more and sort of focusing on being a recreational player again, what are some of the like common mistakes that you see other recreational players make that due to all your time on the other side of the mic, you're like, I remember when I was like that. What are some of these kind of classic blunders that most recreational players make at some point, and then they have to just have that aha moment that lets them take it to the next level?
Yeah. There's probably numerous ones. One of my favorite ones to spot is the player that either comes to your table or you go to their table. They've got the huge chip stack, and you think, oh, geez, I better steer clear of them. They'll lose a big hand, and you can just watch them, and you see the smoke coming out of their ears. They're so on tilt, it's not funny. And then you watch them play the next hand, and they'll instantly 3-bet the next hand, usually out of spite. Very occasionally they rock up with aces in that point, but usually it's a tilt raise. And and if you can find your way to get onto that in that hand, I'll often widen my ranges tremendously in a situation like that when I know that there's someone that's going to go on tilt, and they've just got to sort of recompose themselves. Tommy Angelo is probably one of my favorite for tiltlessness. He's always sticking in my head as far as resetting for every single hand. If you've had a hand like that where you've just copped a bit of a bad beat, you've really got to change that mindset, because if you pay attention to what your mind's doing at that time that you've copped the bad beat, you're not focusing on the next hand. Your head's back in that, I should have 3-bet, or I should have raised on the turn. Or you're replaying that mind, and that's gone. That's in the past. That's the last hand. You've got to be back on this new hand. And I think that's where a lot of folks just don't progress from one hand to the next. Same thing in a similar way to if you've won a big hand, you've also got to kind of stay balanced and be prepared. But it affects mostly the big losses, I think. And you just really got to reset for the next hand every single hand you play. And you're playing hopefully hundreds of hands a night in a tournament. So you've just got to build up that muscle that allows you to just reset constantly. If you need to stand up from the table, you might be afraid of missing a hand. You don't have to miss a hand. Just stand up, just walk, do a lap of the other tables while someone's doing the shuffle. It's a relatively easy thing to start to do, but that's one. Another one that I see is you're on the final table at our games. Often you don't have a huge chip stack when you get to these final tables. It could be 10, 15 bigs. It might be the big stack. You might have three or four. Sounds like, oh, well, according to this snap shove chart, I should be going all in with X, Y, and Z. But the ICM implications, which you don't need to understand exactly how ICM works, but you've got to have an idea that, hey, if someone else gets knocked out here, well, I've just bumped up to another place and I've earned a few more dollars, a little bit more profit. And step by step by step, you can often find yourself in the top 3 because these other guys with stacks of 6 or 7 blinds have knocked themselves out because they've thought, look, I've got an ace. I've got to go all in with an ace. It's the best hand I've seen in hours. But you might be about to run into the chip leader, in the big blind, who's just going to call you with anything half decent, and half the time call you with something that's not decent at all, and you're out because you've gone in with ace 3 off. and you're basically up against, you had an ace. Your 3 was barely coming into it. So yeah, that having a small chip stack when you come to a final table, don't be scared of that. My biggest win, I went to the final table with less than 2 big blinds, and took out the tournament. That I wish I could say it happens all the time. It doesn't happen all the time. I'm sorry to say, but that's something I'd love to. I'd recommend people just reconsider when you get to that final table. Don't just throw away your stack because you've only got 5 or 6 bigs.
Yeah, I think people don't appreciate that you can still execute a skillful poker strategy even with very short stacks. That the chip in the chair is a real thing. As long as you've got a big blind, you have equity in the tournament, and I think people don't appreciate how much equity they actually have in the tournament when they get short like that. And you can still make poker decisions and good poker decisions. On that front, no, please.
Oh no, I was just going to say it becomes a matter of picking your spot, and picking a spot when to actually shove that stack in.
Eric, you had something, I think.
Oh, I was just gonna mention. I think Merv. I think you've joined some of our home games, and I was kind of 2 questions. Have you been able? So what time is it for you during our normal home games? And second, have you been able to take down one of the tournaments and win a pin yet?
I have. If I could play as many rec poker tournaments as I could, I would be playing every day. But my time is just that. It often comes up around the middle-ish of our day. My days are always very spontaneous. Theoretically, I could play poker every day, but it's opportunity cost, and there's other things that I just have to get done, and real life happens to pop along. And I call it real life because actually I feel like poker should be my real life. But
yes.
Other real life stuff has been happening, especially these last year or so. It's meant I haven't been able to play as much. I think I'm probably only played Lifetime 2 or 3, and I'm not even sure if it's 3. It might be 2, but I know I've played 1, and I know I won one just not so long ago. I was on a bit of a roll that day. I just spontaneously again just thought, okay, I can log in, and it was an awesome game. It's the toughest play money game in the world by far, I reckon.
That's impressive that you've only played a few times and managed to win.
He's
got a really good ROI.
That is an excellent ROI. So I believe, Jim, you and Steve you printed out a bunch of those pins, right? And so I'm wondering, Merv, do you still have a stash of the Merv medals? When you made those, or are those still available at all?
Well, firstly, I have to remember to get that pin. I think he's trying to save on the postage from sending it to Australia.
It's crossing in the mail with your check from Ben, I think. They're still working that out.
That's right. And the Merv's medal, look, I'm still in talks with the designer. We've had some serious artistic differences, and he just doesn't want to do it the way I want to do it. So I still have in mind that I'll get it made up and send it out to probably to all the guests as well. I think they deserve one. Ben will be last to get his.
It's only fair.
Of course, yes.
So one of the other questions I had for you. So you mentioned earlier you wish you'd sort of studied more at the time while you were so immersed in this kind of stuff. What have you found to be some effective study aids or some study methods? Like for you, what worked to get you better at poker? And then today, what would you recommend to people that are trying to take the next step and bring their game to the next level? What are some training or studying practices or resources that you think would be very helpful?
I still haven't quite found the thing that actually will unlock the key in my head, or unlock the lock in my head.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. But I think that one of the most important things is to focus in on the type of poker that you're playing and find the coach or the forum that works with that. So, and what I mean by that is you've got live, you've got online, you've got cash, and you've got tourneys. I count those as 4 different types of games. You know, it's one thing. I remember being shown, I think it was Snap Shove, one of the first trip I went to Vegas, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And I can see how well that works for online stuff when you can just reg and just you get knocked out, you reg another one. But you're playing live, you don't want to be just shoving it all in with A7 because Snap Shove tells you that you can do that. You've got to find a live tourney coach if you're playing live tourneys, and then you want to find one that's actually had experience in the stakes that you play at. You really want to narrow in and find that exact groove of where, you know, I had a couple of coaching. I've had a few coaching sessions with a few different coaches over the years, and you know, one of them was a cash game player. At that stage of my playing career, that was kind of helpful because there was a lot of things that I just wasn't aware of. But after a few lessons there, I realized that I really need to be talking to someone about tournaments because I'm playing tournaments. So yeah, that's one of the things. I think one of the things I love about Rec Poker so much is that just the sheer amount of the volume of resources that you guys have been able to come up with. You know, I remember the main resource for Rec Poker when I first started listening to Steve was listening to him starting to compile his ranges week by week by week, and there'd be a structure to it, and I was fascinated by it. It just couldn't move quick enough for me. But nowadays, you know, you guys have just compiled such a volume of work that's there for anyone that's playing online, live, tourneys, or cash. It's all there for Rec Poker, and plus you've got that community sort of engagement as well, and that's I'd probably say for a lot of people starting, you know, the forums are just a great place to start because remember that it's not gospel. You're not learning from the best poker player in the world or the best poker players in the world, but you get ideas and you get sort of concepts and you get things that you can bounce off your own mind and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and then you can go and try it out at the next time you play, your next session. So
I think that's something we do talk about, and thank you for all those kind words. I mean, I want to say you hit the nail on the head, man. I mean, that's part of what we've tried to do here is create this compendium of all these videos and forum posts and podcast episodes and blog articles and stuff that people from any different point in their poker journey can come and find something that's going to make them better, but more importantly, find that group of people that they can talk to about their strategies, about the problems they're having, about the theory that they're studying and that kind of thing. Because watching the videos, listening to the podcast, it's helpful and it's good information to be getting, but you really, and maybe Joe, you can talk about this a little in one of our upcoming episodes, but it really just like you take it in better when you're being more active in how you study this kind of stuff, talking about it, putting it into your own words, typing it out on the page in the forums. That just seems to, we'll ask the neuropsychologist over here, but it feels like that kind of uses a different part of your brain that kind of allows you to hold on to that stuff a little more carefully. Is that true, Joe?
Sort of. I think that whenever Jim starts to wax poetic about the brain, I always start to cringe a little bit on the inside. But you get the general idea. I mean, I think that what's as I've said before, the thing that always brought me to Rec Poker is the sense of community, because it gives people the opportunity to really ask questions about weak areas that they have. I think I said last week, I grew up listening to Doug Polk. just, and it was like that scene from 13th Warrior, where the guy is listening to all the Vikings talk and he can't understand it, and then it moves and suddenly he can understand it. I just had to sit there and listen over and over and over again until I could understand what the hell Polk was saying. But half of the stuff that he would say, I would try and it would just obliterate my stack because I didn't really understand what it was that I needed to do there and to put it into context. And I think that the community here of people that are, well, usually non-judgmental. Jim judges me all the time, which is really kind of annoying. But being able to have those moments, having those moments of weakness and say, I don't know what this is, right? And then have people respond to it and say, well, now you can go watch this video, or this is where you could go because I've been there and I want to help you kind of move through is what where the strength comes from.
I love that. So Merv, what's left for you in the world of poker? We were talking to David Lappin last week, and that was one of the subjects that came up, which is sort of, you've been around the game for so long, you've been involved with so many different facets of the game and the industry. Is there something in the world of poker, a summit unreached by you that you feel like is just your poker life won't be complete until you planted that flag? What's left for Merv Harvey in the poker world?
Well, when you talk about a summit, Jim, I have to believe in my bingo mindset and say, well, winning a World Series of Poker main event, that would be the summit.
That'd be a good one.
Say.
That'd be a good one. I'd even settle for just winning one of the high rollers events. It doesn't actually even have to be the main event. Just just give yourself a little room, is what I'm saying.
I'll take a min cash. I'll take a min cash at the main event because it means that I'm over there and in the thick of it. So look, I'm so I don't feel like I've been in the poker world for that long. To me, it's just been sort of a brief point of time. Hopefully I'll be in it for the rest of my life. Hopefully I'm going to live a long life like my grandparents. They're in their 90s. If I can get that far, I've got another 40 years to go and 40 more years of playing poker. Fantastic. So yeah, I think I've seen the spaces open up, and I think I'd like to be a part of that, and just being able to kind of manage and host a room where people respect each other, and you kind of make sure that there's respect shown by people in conversations, and it doesn't turn into some kind of bitch fight. So that's like a short-term thing. I've always loved writing, so I can I do more writing. I'm pretty much open to anything that pops up in the poker world that just keeps me involved and interested. I can, like I say, I can never seem to play as many live tourneys as I'd like to. The other day, I was able to get to 2 in one day, which was awesome. Got 4th in the first and final tabled the second. So that was a great day. I won't tell you about the bad beat why I only final tabled and didn't actually win that one. But yeah, just getting to play as much as I can, staying connected with all, not just all the guests that we had on Postflop, but everyone that's just a part of this community. And I'm probably going to be more attracted to the people that actually try and insert positivity into not just poker but life meanings in general, and that's kind of where I've always liked to see myself framing myself is in and around people that actually build up people's positivity and sense of enjoyment of life and overall happiness. If we're playing poker and we're not happy and we're sad, then we shouldn't be playing poker, basically. Go and do something else. I just think that poker can be so much fun, and the people around, that's probably a bit of a nebulous kind of an answer, but
no, but it's true. And I love talking to you about this kind of stuff, because it's like when I talk to Kevin Mathers or some of these other people who have just found a place for themselves in the poker world. They love poker, like you mentioned. You've got this enthusiasm for poker. Like I'm one of these people. I'm not. I don't belong here. I'm not credentialed. I don't. It's this weird world, the poker world, where if you're enthusiastic and lucky, you can kind of make a space for yourself just by putting in some hard work and doing something that you really love. And people take a chance on you, and then you've kind of built this space. So I just wanted to say congratulations on that, for turning your enthusiasm into, the track that you've taken in the poker industry. And I'm glad that you enjoy it so much. It's clear that you do. Eric, did you have something before we close on out of here? Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions for Merv? Merv, so folks can still go back and listen to the old episodes of the Postflop Poker Podcast. It's anywhere that your fine podcasts can be found. Joe, did you have something?
Good podcast, Jim. You're supposed to say anywhere where good podcasts are found.
The finest podcasts only are available is where you'll find that. Joe?
But I'm just curious if you've kept up with Ben, if you've talked with him over the years, if he continues to be part of your life, I guess, in terms of communication and so on.
Yeah. So we had to finish up the podcast. Ben ended up going back to England and got a real job and had to kind of put poker aside. So that's why we had to put the Postflop to sleep. Unfortunately, the website's gone. So I won't point anyone towards the Postflop Poker website, which had all of the merchandise, t-shirts, that's not there, but yeah, where all the good podcasts are found is where you'll see be able to listen to the episodes. I've been able to keep in touch with Ben a little bit, just the odd sort of tweets here and there, something will pop up. I think he's doing okay. He's in the back of my mind, I still think he wants to come back to poker. I think there's something that wants to draw him back. Again, it's real life things that are keeping him engrossed in what he's doing, and he's making that choice to prioritize that side of life rather than poker, which can be all engrossing and just take up so much of your life. So he's doing pretty good. He's still got the same sense of humor, and yeah.
Joe, anything else?
No, I just tell him I said hi if he reaches out.
Yep, I will. I'll pass that on. I'm due to send him an email. Actually, I'm overdue to send him an email. If anyone else is out there that has emailed me and I haven't replied back, I'm overdue for it. I know. Been catching up with some stuff.
So it's a podcast poker host thing, this getting behind on the emails, because I'm also sort of chronically in that position. So I'm glad to hear I'm not alone. And maybe that I learned it from you, Merv. I learned it from you. You're the whole cause of this. That must be what it is.
No, I think it's more universal, Jim.
Yeah,
it's bigger than both of us.
I think it might be. I think you're right.
It's one other thing. So usually we have a food bank role here, and I'm not sure we're probably not going to be able to do that.
I don't think we'll be able
to.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to offer to you, because I really appreciate you coming on, and I wanted to be a Patreon for many more years of the Postflop Poker Podcast, but you went away, and so I've had this mound of money just building up that I wanted to give. So what we've done in the past is we have this dice roll where we roll a dice, and Jim is known for always rolling a 1. So what I'm going to do today is that we're going to take a 6-sided die and roll it. And until it comes up with a 1, I'll give $10 to the food bank until such time as that 1 comes up. And I'll put it in your name for just a little thanks for coming on, because it's been very nice having you on here to talk.
Is that up to an infinite number?
Oh, I'm sorry. Maximum $100. Sorry, Merv.
I
was only a bronze.
Put your safety net in there.
I was only a bronze member of the club.
I think Joe's just trying to look like a good guy so he can earn a Merv medal.
Yeah, from what we understand. And Merv's a perfectionist about that metal design. You know,
It's-
doesn't surprise us. It has to be perfect.
It's well worth it. It's on the way, Joe. I appreciate that, Joe. And look, that sort of spreading the love, spreading philanthropy, poker philanthropy. That could be a long-term goal. I'd love to be involved in some way of just having perhaps more poker charity tournaments, charity events, as a way, to raise money, especially on the ground community level. If someone in your local poker room has passed away, or someone's going through some tough times with lots of hospital bills, have a game. Chuck in a buy-in, have someone will donate some prizes, and just kind of bring the community together in that way. Especially that poker community, the guys that I play poker with, I never see them outside of poker. I only see them inside poker. But hey, we can all get together for united together for a cause, and I think that's one of the things I'd love to see poker being used for. So appreciate, Joe, the reminder of that poker philanthropy.
Yeah, no, I continue to be surprised at how generous the poker world is. There's a lot of people here who don't mind contributing to the betterment of other people, especially those people that need it the most. So stick around for a minute here, Merv. I think we'll just do the roll right here, right live on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
This is just a part of our show where we always try and just take a moment to highlight the plight of people that are suffering from food insecurity. Even in first world countries, even in well-off neighborhoods, you never know who is having a little trouble putting food on the table for themselves or their family. Today, more than ever, the people that you might not expect might need a little help. And a great way to make a difference in your community is by donating some time, some money, or some non-perishable food items to a food bank near you. Yeah, Merv, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, when I first heard you were doing the food bank giveaway, I'm thinking, oh, there must be a food bank in Canada or where Jim is. They're everywhere, guys. I'm in a hotel in Singapore, and there's a big thing down the bottom for their food bank for hotel guests that haven't used it. Food banks just popping up. They're all over the place. And when you think, oh, I don't know their name, just look up food bank in your area. It'll be popping up. There's something just about everywhere. And there's more than enough food in this world for everyone. We just share it around.
I love it. Yeah, that's right, Merv. And if you just pick out your smartphone right now and just Google food banks near me, you'll find some organizations that can use your help. And like Merv is saying, it's a problem everywhere. And it's a problem that we can at least lessen if we can't solve. So thank you, Joe, for this excellent donation idea. We're going to start rolling here, and we'll see how many we get to. Okay, the first one. It was the first one. I got a 1.
Zero.
He knew.
Well,
It's
Joe knew.
always,
Okay.
Joe knew how it works. That's why he chose
always,
1.
always a 1. We have to get a camera on this because this is insane. This is like
Right.
This is not a sustainable frequency of rolls.
So because Jim screwed it all up, what I'll give $50, the halfway point in their name to the local food bank. So
Cheers.
we're not going to short the people food because Jim always rolls.
Only rolls
And if I can just say, Jim, that dice needs to be evaluated by someone with very close microphone. There's something wrong with it.
I think that's right. I've used this die for a while. It didn't always used to roll ones, so I think it's got a little flair for the dramatic, I suppose. I don't know where it gets that from. All right. Well,
thanks again, Joe. That was nice. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Cheers. And Merv, if folks want to connect with you, I think Twitter is the place that you tend to enjoy your time the most. It's at Merv _ Harvey. What's your handle again?
It's
just
at Merv _ Harvey. I resisted getting on Facebook when it first came out because I knew how much time I would absolutely waste being on it.
Oh yeah.
Instead, when I went to Vegas the first time to play in the seniors event for my 50th birthday, I joined up Twitter so that I could talk to the guys from TPE, Tournament Poker Edge.
Yeah.
And now I spend way too much time on poker Twitter.
Terrible.
Way too much. But I could spend more.
Yeah.
I'd love to spend more. In fact, I'll probably go on Spaces as soon as we finish this.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So yeah, folks, I'll put that link in the show note too, but don't hesitate to reach out to @Merv_Harvey and tell him that you enjoyed his episode on the show tonight. And I'm sure he can point you in the direction of some episodes of the Postflop Poker Podcast and some other cool stuff that he's getting up to today. Merv, thank you. I always enjoy these conversations. And I must say also, thank you for your support. I know you are also a RecPoker Premium member, and your contributions to what we're doing here do not go unnoticed. And it warms my heart to have you be an active member of our community here. So thank you for all you've done for the poker world, and thanks for coming back on the show and sharing your story with us today.
You're welcome, Jim. I probably can't afford it to be a premium member, and I don't nearly even use it as much. I'm constantly on my brain to get into the RecPoker, but yeah, for anyone, it's just one of the cheapest and easiest ways to start getting involved, and it's the least I can do to support you guys. But yeah, just that, like I say, the body of work that you guys put into it, and the amount of effort, John, with all those games.
Oh my God, how does he do it? I know, it's insane.
Amazing.
Like he might be crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say that. I've heard he's the nicest guy in poker, and I'd say that's probably true. But yeah, those what you've done, John, for the home games, which I'm sure we're going to hear about results soon. Yeah, I just want to thank you for that. So yeah, thanks for sticking in there, keeping those real games going, so that while people are learning stuff from RecPoker, they can actually play as well against these guys. Awesome stuff, guys.
There you go. And John, you heard Merv. He said it. It's one of the toughest play money home games running in the world. So it's not just us saying it. The word is getting out.
Yeah, we just need more and more players to come in and join along.
That's right. Come toss your hat into the ring. So if folks want to find out more about our home game series, they can go to rec.poker/home game. Merv, you're welcome to stick around for the rest of the show here as we talk about some results. John, why don't you tell us who won some recent games and who won some prizes in the games that we've been playing, and we can send out some pins later this week, hopefully.
Oh, you're sending out pins each week, are you, Jim? To Australia?
Actually, I am sending pins to Australia. One of our recent winners, Luke, is Australian, and he told me he was going to order his pins. Maybe I should put a little care package in there and see if he'll pop it in the Aussie post for you.
I would like that. Yeah. Well, shall I just send you I'll just send you my postal address, Jim. And,
why don't you? Why don't we make this official? Yeah, thanks, Merv. I'll look forward to that.
I'll wear it. I promise I'll wear it.
I know you will. I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send it. That's it. You got me.
All right. First, we have Aces 54320. Kathy Chang got her third nightly victory this year. And then this must be a typo, but Bluffsterini Jim Reid got his first nightly victory for the year.
What? They let anybody win these damn things these days.
Well, I suppose if you let someone play every night, they're bound to win eventually.
Small field that day, John?
Yeah, it was very small. I think they had like 4 players in it.
4 players, yeah.
And 3 of them were sitting out.
Keep it up.
Then Dratik Ball, Danny Wood got his first nightly victory for the
Another
year.
Australian. The Australian invasion is on.
Keck Geek, that would be Keck Geek Senior, got his 6th nightly victory for the year, 33rd lifetime. So I think Keck Geek Junior, Keck Geek 65, needs to get a move on if he wants to stay ahead of his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Then GF Hawk, Eric Romo, got his 2nd nightly victory for the year. Jody Jody Allison got her 2nd nightly victory for the year. A really mad guy, got his 2nd daily mixed victory for the year. Oslo Burger Tron Vidar Stensby won the early morning international victory for his 2nd victory of the year. Rick the Good Dog won the later international tournament for his 2nd international victory for the year. And then Jay Sedham, Jeff S. won the LPP event, so he can contact info@rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
Nice. We got a couple of heavy hitters in that one. Thanks, John. And I while you were talking, I looked up our friend Merv Harvey in our pinned spreadsheet document that you've put together, which is amazing, by the way. And it's true, he wasn't blowing smoke. He is owed a bronze pin. So tell you what, Merv, you show so much love to the guests on your show. I am going to mail you that bronze pin. You deserve it, buddy. So
Thank you, Jim. I can't believe you had to look it up, like you didn't believe
well,
me. But,
we don't just take people's word for things over here. It's a rigorously reviewed organization at every level.
Well, they're so coveted. I mean, we've had, Phil Humuth has said that he won a pin.
Yeah.
Nope, never did.
Yeah.
Negranu, same thing. He wanted the pin, didn't get it. So, we just have to make sure that people have actually earned these pins.
Yes. Lappin referred to it as one of the pinnacles in the poker world, as far as I remember from the show last week. So I don't want to put words in David Lappin's mouth, but I just think, people know how valuable these pins are. There's a whole gray market for them, from what I understand. Yeah.
I just want to let you know, Merv, I have 2. So, if you really want to get that pinnacle, you have to achieve the 2 that I have won.
That's right. Yeah, there's John. John's looking good. John's looking good with his awards. That's a medal. That's a medal right there.
I wasn't going to play today, Joe, but you're making me want to jump on today. I've got too many things to do. But
well, congratulations to all our victors. And thanks for everyone who plays in our home game club. We think it's a great place to come and practice your skills and get to know other Rec Poker members as well. It's a great community there. So it's funny. The one that I won last week was on Tuesday night, and on Tuesday nights for all of May, June, and July, we're actually running a collaborative contest with 100K Studios. So every Tuesday night, you're going to win. If you make it to the final table, you're going to win points on a leaderboard each month. So if you're listening to this live, oh wait, no one's listening to this live because we couldn't do it on YouTube tonight for some stupid reason. If you're listening to this when it comes out on Friday, you've got time to join June's leaderboard. So for all of June, there's going to be every Tuesday night play in the home game just like you normally would. We'll track your points like usual, and we'll talk to Rob Gardner over at 100K Studios about getting your points there. And then for all of July, there'll be a separate points race. The winner each month gets entered into a qualifier tournament this summer where someone's going to win a $1,000 entry to a Run Good Poker Tour series event later this summer or later this year. So I'm really excited for that. All you have to do is play in our free Play Money home games on Tuesday nights, and you can win that prize. Just like if you're playing in our free Play Money home game on Sundays, you can win a free month at Learn Pro Poker. Just one of the perks of being a member here at Rec Poker is free to join. The cost is nothing, but the prizes are real and the fun is rampant. Speaking of rampant fun, I also want to just mention again, we are going to be having our meetup game down on the Strip. If you're around in Las Vegas for the last week of June, it'll be sometime between the 23rd and the 28th. We're still figuring out exactly when, but it's going to be super fun. I don't want to share too many details until we get them absolutely locked down with the casino that we're working with to make this happen, but I'm really excited for it. And I hope some folks that are down there for the series get to join in and have some fun with us there. Fellas, is there anything else that we need to touch on before we release our Australian hostage here and roll on into the forums edition of the podcast, which we'll be recording next? Doesn't seem like it.
Are you keeping him hostage in your basement, Jim?
No comment.
Okay.
You mean my storage room? My storage room?
Yeah.
There's
potato. Sure. Jim's your uncle. Whatever, whatever you want to call
it. One of these days, I'm going to have to host a party up here in Coburg, Ontario, and all you guys can come on over and see just how non-murder dungeony my basement is. And until then, I'll just keep referring to it as the non-murder dungeony basement, which should really get the point across. You think?
That sounds horrifying. So let me know.
All right. Well, as always, I have to thank everyone here, Eric, Joe, John, for being part of the RECing Crew, as they are each and every week. They do so much to make the magic happen here. Merv Harvey for coming on the show. All you listeners at home, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. We couldn't do it without all of your support. So thanks to everyone. I hope you had fun. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye for now.